Welcome everyone. Today we will talk about analysis for data analysis. Our instructor, Benjamin Solomon, will use it. He has 40 years of experience in the industry and the most experienced lecturers of our company. Before we start, I want to talk about our company, Magnimind Academy. We've been teaching data science since 2015. We have three main type of programs: data science, full-stack data science bootcamp, our one-on-one machine learning data analysis project, our mini bootcamp. Right now, our machine learning mini bootcamp will start on February 18th. With this mini bootcamp, we want to provide to learn data science for everyone for 12 hours, 4 weeks, and for free. The on-site participation is full right now, but you can still join online. And you can check our website, I want to announce Benjamin Solomon with a round of applause. Thank you.
Hi, folks. Let me give you a little bit of introduction about myself. First, let me turn off my phone. Okay. I have a first degree in electrical engineering, which I don't know why I bothered to do it, because I never practiced it. But it gave me a good solid grounding what engineering is about, and it's kept me grounded all these years. I have a master's in operations research. University in the UK. And it's unlike OR in the US, OR in Britain tends to be more practical, more applied, whereas here in this country, it tends to be more academic. And I have a master's in finance. My focus there was not on options. I couldn't be bothered with options. I was more about how companies work, why they worked, and how to make them better. My thesis, my finance thesis, was a single word title thesis, which was just unsystematic risk. 553 pages. My supervisor offered to convert it into a PhD. I said no, because I wanted, and I was not interested in a piece of paper. But this short version is that unsystematic risk cannot be diversified away, and there are a lot of ways to handle unsystematic risk. So modern finance is based on the dividend discount model, which basically says that dividends, increases your share price. You can use it to determine share price. Not true, because some market segments, when you pay dividends, the market punishes you, because the market understands your industry does not have the cash flow. So when you do finance, think about those issues. A lot of what we are taught, I'm a Maverick, a lot of what we are taught is myth. And we'll see two good examples of that. Okay, I have contributed to Seeking Alpha, if you know what Seeking Alpha is. Publish with them. I used to contribute to Huffington Post, and then I believe at some point they didn't think I was left-leaning enough, and they stopped publishing me. I'm a realist. I'm in the center of the politics. I support both sides, and I disagree with both sides. And I used to write a lot for Lifeboat Foundation. That's the physics side of my life. Okay, those are the articles that I published for Seeking Alpha. I think the one I like the best is Fed's Bank Stress Test is wrong. It's completely a waste of money, waste of the paper it's written on. It's all about Dodd-Frank and nothing about stress testing. Okay, there are two. 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 There are two most important discoveries are made using data, not chasing other people's theories. Gravitational acceleration without mass. The other one is that the gravitational constant is not a constant, it's a coefficient that's inversely proportional to isotopy. You can do this. If you know how to do data analysis good, you can do this yourself. And I've done a lot of work on probability versus randomness. And you can trace, there are two different phenomena. Probability is due to particle structure, randomness is due to atomic structure. Okay. Mathematics, Professor Morris Klein of Cooley. So when you hear all these talks about string theory, exotic matter, and black holes, it's all conjecture. There's no real empirical evidence proving it. But the media writes about it because it sells. It sells, but it's all conjecture. And I would add, on this side, you have conjecture. On this side, if you don't have a formula, you don't have all the facts. The real world is somewhere closer to this side. It's not complicated. Okay, so the first question I'll ask you in this session is, how big is the snowflake? Any volunteers? Any answers? Okay. Okay. Any other answers? This session is about experiential learning. Any other? No. Well, remember, you see what you know. I told you it's a snowflake, so you saw it as snowflake. You need to know what you see. It's not a snowflake. This gets everybody every time. So when your manager comes up to you and says, I want you to prove this, that's the red flag. So don't be a duckling. Create your own script. A lot of managers are repeating the script that they have learned through their employment. And much of it is not, it's fuzzy. So you need to follow your own script. And as a Maverick, I know you cannot follow other people's script. 98% of the advice you get from people is wrong. Even though they are well-intentioned, it's wrong. You have to figure out things for yourself. Okay, and focus on productive models. Models that will give you real-world answers. And in this session, you need to know your environment, you need to know your objectives, and even though you need to know your techniques, sometimes techniques can send you astray, just like it is done with string theory. The joke in the physics community about string theories by non-string theorists is that string theory can solve any problem, provided somebody discovers it first. So you don't want to be in that situation. Okay, the context. I talked to a lot of data analysts, and basically data analysis can be broken up into three boxes. Data mining. You have the data, now what? Data report. You produce a nice report which says you're seeing so much of this and so much of that. Can you go wrong? to make a business decision, can you go wrong? Yes, a lot of the times. Let's say you see somebody sell, the market is selling 50,000 red shoes this week. Do you want to advertise? Do you want a company to advertise 50,000 red shoes? There's a technique I will talk about in a later lecture that tells you whether that observation is correct or not. And a lot of the times that observation, the use of that observation to make a decision is wrong. For example, around 1970, 1980, there was a large, giant travel company called Thomson Travel in the UK. And they dominated the travel industry. It was something like 60 or 70% of the market. And they used to advertise, we have more satisfied customers than anybody else. What's wrong with that statement? Or what's right with that statement? Yeah, they had the most number of satisfied customers.
There's also customer.
What?
There's also unsatisfied customer.
Yeah, but that's, yeah.
We are talking about the more. The percentage, maybe more.
Correct.
The percentage is less.
Correct. You have the largest because you're the largest company. But if you convert that into a percentage, you might only have 5% satisfied customers, which tells the customers that this is a bad company. Or more importantly, it tells the management that they are doing a bad job and they need to buck up. Okay, data analysis. So now you go to the next stage, which is data analysis. You have a model. The question is, does it work in real life? Tell my production people and my marketing people, hey, go advertise it. Is that what works in the real world? For example, FICO scores. FICO scores are like, they are consumer credit rating. The banks feed the information to the rating agencies, and the rating agencies work out a magic number called FICO scores, and they tell you something like 530 up to 900. And the whole idea behind the FICO scores is to tell the lender whether you are a good credit risk or not. If you're a poor credit risk, the bank will not lend to you. Okay, but you can test. You can test whether you look at mortgage defaults. I spent a lot of years in mortgage defaults, commercial property mortgage defaults. You can test whether FICO scores are a reliable test for default. The answer is no. I proved that in 2007. But you know what? The industry says everybody is using it, so we're also using it. That's another red flag. So the whole idea behind the first 3 steps is good decision making. So you sell product A, somebody else sells product B, and product B decides to drop his price by 30%. What do you do? Possibly.
With less high price and lower price.
Possibly, but you're jumping the gun. As
starting is there where we can like go about
Relationship.
Possibly. All points towards what you need to do. What you need to do is determine whether that price reduction is going to impact your product. The product may not be in the same market. So if you respond to his price reduction, you are losing money. The second thing you have to do is you have to read through the guy's financial statement, the company's financial statement. Does he have the ability to sustain an all-out price war? That will tell you what you can do. Okay, so the other causes are down here that feeds to this, and I will talk about in the second cause, the third cause. I'll talk about M-models. M-models, S stands for asymmetric information resolution. It's a class of solutions I invented me about 20 years to do it. And I'll talk about a little bit more about it further down. Sources of errors. What is the biggest source of possible errors that you will see when you are a data analyst? No, sort of close. You, the data analyst, is the first source of error. Cognitive bias. Okay? So it's a systematic error in thinking. It affects how you make your decisions and your judgments and the way you remember an event. And I'll give you some examples because nature has designed us so that our attention is limited. So we have to move quickly to figure out what's going on. In this, who saw two faces first? Who saw the vase first? Oh, most people saw two faces first. I wonder why. Maybe it looks like they're kissing. So that's on your mind. Okay, there are altogether about 9 biases that have been confirmed. Confirmation bias, reinforcing your own beliefs. You take things, you read things, or political situations like that. Everybody reads what they want to confirm their biases. The Democrats want to believe that the Democrats are in power and the Republicans want to believe that the Republicans are right. So everybody wants to read their version of the news and nobody cares about what's going on in the middle. Availability heuristics, placing greater importance on what comes to mind quickly. So if you're thinking about something, you're reading the news, you're watching a TV show, you're going to a movie, that's what is present in your mind. And when you look at your data, whatever ideas are associated with that comes to mind. So don't watch TV, don't go to movies. Halo effect, impression of the person. And if you talk to people, in this photograph, men will see something first and women will see something else first. Who saw her face first? Ah, surprise, surprise. Who saw her legs? Most men will see her legs first before they see the rest. Most women will see the accessories in our face. So how you target your web pages has a big effect on who your audience are. Why do you want successful targeting of your web pages? Why? No? There's a deeper reason. What? No? That's a marketing statement. This is a donut, not a data analyst statement. Because you get good data. If nobody's looking at your website, you don't have data. You want good data. You want people to go click on your website. They tell you, I am 520 years old. I own 35,000 houses. You want that kind of information. I am male, I'm female. I'm living in this MSA or this city. You want that information. And it's only when you have successful web clicks, you get that information. When you have that information, you can work. You can do things, you can make decisions. Okay, self-serving bias, blaming external forces. All of you, you're all the problems why I'm standing here and having to talk to you guys. Attentional bias, paying attention to something else while ignoring everything. That is part of life. We all do that. Actor observer bias. Your problems are my problems that you fix. But your problems, even though they are the same as mine, that's your fault. Okay, so who saw the red one first? Who saw the green first? Anybody saw the gray? Yeah. You saw the gray, yeah, exceptional. I looked at this diagram 3 times and I never looked at the gray. It was the 4th or 5th time when I finally got around to seeing the gray. Because we are taught red means something, green means something. Gray, who cares? Functional fixedness. Things only work a single way. And you have a hammer, yeah. That's the opposite. Anchoring bias. First information is most important. Some people are like that. You tell them that guy is a bad guy, that's it, no more. He cannot or she cannot hear anything else. That guy's a bad guy. Misinformation. Post-event information alters your memory. So you see a photograph. This photograph was taken by a friend of mine, John Barron. He's been training animals for 15, 20 years. Very good trainer. Dogs, camels, ducks, geese, cats, the whole works, lions, who he has trained. And when you look at this photograph, it looks like 2 geese hissing at each other, right? But they actually, he's trained them to count from 0 to 9. It's an incredible feat. Really is an incredible feat. Imagine a trainer being able to do that. So now you look at the picture. Are the geese counting? Are the geese counting? Nobody dares say anything. I made up a story. I gave you a lot of misinformation. Can geese count? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't tested it. Okay. 3 other. This is very important, the work environment. False consensus effect. How much everyone agrees with you. You believe that everybody agrees with you. I know nobody agrees with me here. I don't have to worry. Optimism bias. More likely to attain success than your peers. Tends to happen with people who think they're ambitious. And the Dunning-Kruger effect, that people are really smarter than they are. I saw this firsthand. I was working at a Honda dealership. I was doing hand-to-hand combat in sales. And my manager's managers always thought he was the most intelligent person in the company. Always. But you see this group of soldiers? They cannot go into battle and survive if they have any of these effects. It's been trained out of them. They say that under stress, you rise up to your level of training. Because that's what comes to you. It's made in reflex action. Made in your reflex action. Or else in auto dealerships, they don't give you good training. You have to plug it out and figure out things for yourself. So under stress, when you're face to face with a customer, difficult customer, what happens? You drop down to your level of training. So the quality of your training you get, the work environment, the teamwork, it's in financial services, they like to call it teamwork. It's actually group activity, it's not teamwork. Whereas if you want, in high tech, you tend to get teamwork. If you want to be really productive, that teamwork is really important. Scale of the data. Okay, this is a theoretical physicist, Lawrence something, I forget his last name. He said you can partition your data into cells, and then you can examine each cell to figure out things. So, and I cleaned it up a little bit. When the effect is within a cell, you can make the cell smaller so that you can have a better view of what the effect is. And the smaller the cells, the closer you get to the real world. And that's true for things like quantum theory. Okay. But in business, you actually have to do the opposite. You have to aggregate. Because the bigger the cells are, the more information you have in each cell, and you average out your errors. If that's what you want to do. For example, you group your data by city or MSA. Who knows what MSA is? Statistical area, yeah, like group of cities. Rural areas don't have MSAs, but they are very powerful in building models that are related to losses, mortgage defaults, what's happening in the economy. So when you look at your data, you want to know which way you want to go, up or down. Usually you want to aggregate upwards. A touch on statistical modeling. So what's the purpose of statistical modeling? I should get 50 answers. Predictions, forecasting. What else? When? Okay.
Writing this prediction actually means
Okay. Okay. Statistical modeling is a tool for business decision making. See, when Bruce Lee, he taught a lot of good things. He said, when you punch a person, you don't punch him at his stomach. You punch right through past the back of his body. That's when your strength is still there when you go through. So when you do data analysis, it's the same thing happens. You want to know what's your business decision you are heading to. You do the data analysis. It is important to have a bigger purpose than just looking at the data. Because if you're just looking at the data, you're not going to figure out what business means. Okay, so does your equation look like? How many of you have built equations? Tasty, greasy, depending on which way you look at the world. What is an equation? Okay.
And,
Okay.
Proficiency in constants. And how independent.
Broaden your scope a little bit more. What? Broaden your scope a little bit more. Broaden your scope a little bit more. Usually, in the 40 years I've worked, I have never found a good equation that is 6 or more variables. One data analyst told me she was working on 15 variables. That tells me you don't know what you're doing. Your manager doesn't know what he is doing. You cannot be working with 15 variables. And if you want to fit all 15 variables, use a polynomial. You get a perfect fit every time, guaranteed. That's what polynomials do. But polynomials don't tell you anything about the environment you're working in. Doesn't tell you anything about business. You want to avoid polynomials. Context. So coming back, context. Nothing in the real world is context-free. Everything is related to everything else. In social sciences, and I like to tweak this a little bit, in social sciences, the joke is the world is correlated at 32%. I prefer the word 32, the number 32. 32%. The world is correlated at 32%. You get a correlation of 32%. What does it mean? Nothing. You haven't done anything. You wasted your time. You have to get 75 and above. Ideal target is 99%. And you can get 99% if you get the right model, right logical model. So you have to understand the context of what you're in. Okay, not that kind of models. Understand the context of the business you're in. If you can propose alternative models, your model A, your model B, it's very powerful. It's very difficult to come up with a second model. But if you can do that, it's very powerful, because in physics, it's called falsifiability. You have a theory, you have a second theory. One will actually falsify the other. And now it becomes testable. You can test which theory is correct. Same concept here. You want to test for your logical models and their parameter validity. Once you get 99% correlation, you don't have to worry about the model. You just look at the variables, correlations of the variables, the key statistic, right? That's all I do. I don't look at anything sophisticated. I've got 99%. I've got it spot on. And then I choose, oh, this one is 1.8 and that one is 1.5. Which do I pick? Do I pick both or do I leave it? Sometimes I leave it. I know I have an extra variable, but I leave it. Sometimes I say, okay, the logic of the business says that should not be an important consideration, so I drop it. I've never gone beyond 5. Never. Most of my models are 3 variables. So do you know that in an economic growth environment, it's a win-win game? Why? Why is it a win-win game in an economic growth environment? Trade. They are always mutually beneficial. But really cheap. So it's trades happen because both sides agree. Well, this economy is growing. People are selling more. It's a win-win game because yeah, go ahead. Because when you voice it, you get your
longer period of time, it averages out, the banks average out to like a benchmark. The value averages out eventually. So then it becomes a win.
no. This is coming out of economic game theory, which basically means a win-win situation is when both sides benefit from the game. And in a growth economy, what happens is that everybody can sell without plundering from the other person, the other party. So everybody is happy. Whereas a zero-sum game, which happens in a contraction, every unit I sell denies your competitor. That's it. That's why in an economic contraction, your model must be very good to tell you how to do that. Your recession, I'll come to it in a minute. Your recession is contraction. That's the other word. That's the other term. It's known by contraction, economic contraction. Your growth is negative. It's diving. And your economic growth is when GDP is positive growth. Okay. So what is happening in the economy will decide what you're going to do with your data analysis. It's not, I did it today, I'm going to do it tomorrow, I'm going to do it 5 years from now, I'm going to do it 20 years from now. No, the economy is changing, your products are changing. You cannot have the same models, which is good because it's lifetime employment. Otherwise, they'll write a program. Oh, bye-bye. We got a program to replace you. Okay, this is an example of an AM model. And it tells you where you stand, where you are, and all you have to do is, where I am, and these are the locations I can get. My competitors here, and here, and here, and here. I can tell you right away from that graph that he has no chance of surviving. You want to crush him. What AM model tells you in the business context is where you are, what you can and cannot do, where your competitors are, and what they can and cannot do. That's the power of the AM model. It's very fast. The sophistication is hidden behind the model. You don't see it. Okay, if you have those who have Macs, my condolences. This is an MS Excel file. You can always pull it up. If you want 5 minutes, you can put a hold for 5 minutes and you can look at the data and figure out what you're going to do. I'll give you a hint. You want a hint? You don't ask. Real world, you don't ask. You have to figure it out yourself. I'll give you a hint. The model that comes out of this has a 99% correlation. This standard model. This is a standard financial statement. Okay, you cannot do it 5 minutes. It took me 2 weeks. But that exercise is there if you want to pull it down and have a look, try it out, and then come back and talk to me or don't. Power of a good logical model. Okay, this is on the physics side. I've been doing data analysis in physics for the last 20 years. Lorentz Fitzgerald transformation in linear motion, that's the equation, basically says that as you move forward in your velocity, your length contracts, your time slows down. That's what this equation is. And this is the equivalent in a gravitational field. These equations didn't even have a name when I started looking at that. So I gave it the name Newtonian gravitational transformation because it's based on Newton's formula. Can you find a relationship, a new relationship in this data? It's about 150 years old at best, 300 years old at worst. Hundreds and thousands of people have looked at it, looked at it, looked at it. And they'll all tell you, no, we have to develop a new mathematical theory called general relativity. Oh, that's not good enough. You have to do tons of string theories. Can you find a new relationship in this? Yes, no? What? It's well, 1 minus 2 GM over RC squared. You can find it textbook if they want to talk about it. Not textbook, I had hunted down. I found it from St. Andrews University out in the UK. Can you discuss? It's only simple yes or no answer. I'm teaching this course. Obviously, the answer is yes. So that's the other way of finding out things. That's it. That was a new relationship. I finally figured it out in 2007. I was used data modeling. It was a good model. I cannot express to you how important a good model is, a good logical model is. So when you have a good logical model, you can find out things that other people will never see. So this is the original equation. This equation is 300 years old. It has mass and gravitational constant. This one, and that's a change in the. Okay, let's back up a little bit. As you come down a gravitational field, time slows down. And it's actually transformations, but for non-physicists, I'd say, look at the clock rate here, you look at the clock rate here, find the difference, divided by that height, that's tau. Times a c squared, you got the gravitational acceleration. There's no mass in the picture. So what does that mean? Gravity modifying technology. You'll see, maybe 5 years from now, you'll see cars without wheels. That's the implication. You have to look ahead, far out, and see what is the implication of the formulas you're building. Okay, so the lesson here is vital to have the correct logical model. It surpasses anything you can do in statistics, anything, by 10 times. So you have to understand the context in which you're working in. Okay, one more thing. So can you see that both have gravitational acceleration? This one you need to know how far down is the center of the Earth. You have to know the mass. You don't have a range scale to measure the mass of the Earth. You don't even know what G is. You know. Whereas here, C squared is understood very precisely. G, the last 50 years, every experiment they have done has come up with a slightly different value. So the gravitational constant that we use today is a number that is arrived by consensus in the scientific community. So that tells you, when you cannot pin down a value, There's something wrong with your model. It works, but there's still something wrong with your model. Real world discussion. I like this one. Yield curve inversion. How many of you know what yield curve inversion is? Okay. So you hear in the yield curve before. You hear in the news media, they say yield curve has inverted, and therefore we are having a recession. And then 3 months later, no recession. Then you have another news cycle. Oh, this yield curve inverted happened, and we are definitely going to have another recession. And then no recession. Why? Because if you examine the data, if you want economic data for free, the housing data is slightly out of date because it's lagged. You go to Federal Reserve Economic Data. They have like 150,000 time series of everything in the US. And it's available for free. It downloads as an Excel file if you want to download it. Now, when I looked at this data, there are 5 bond rates. The 3-month treasury, there's 5-year, 10-year, 20-year, 30-year, 5 rates. So the yield curve inversion happens when a bond rate other than 3-month is lower than the 3-month treasury rate. So when the 10-year drops below, big news, but nothing happens. The 20-year drops below, it's big news, but then nothing happens. Really what happened is, you look at the data and you test this published in City Alpha. All 4 bond rates, 5, 10, 20, and 30, must be below the 3-month before recession happens. Guaranteed, every instant of recession, all 4 were below the 3-month. Only then is it a recession indicator. It's usually about 9 months later, but it can be as early as 6 months. This is Ezaki Snyderman. Part of defaults, not the layout of defaults. We have the average defaults. The corporate by years from 72 to 92. Published it about 30 years ago. Published it quite a few years ago. Don't know what I have. No, I didn't put the date now. So you get the average default rate by the year of their mortgage. These are residential mortgages. So, of course, we have different things that are here. My only question is what's wrong with this? Looks so innocent. Beautiful table. What is wrong? You know why? These are proportions. They are. I think you take the average, you sum up all these and plug it in there and get an average. Okay, let's look at this data. 2.33% and 95. Let's say it's based on 100 pages. Then we go down to here. In year 1, 1977, 2 years later, 0 default based on a sample of 1,000 mortgages. What happens when you average like this? Yes. You should use weighted average. You give the same priority to a sample of 100 mortgages as 1,000 mortgages. So you're skewing your data. So when you look at this, your data is already wrong. If your data is wrong, are you going to get any good results out of it? No. One banker wrote back to me and said, "Oh, we don't stop using that long ago." Yeah, I told him Wells Fargo published a paper, an article investment. They stopped using it. I mean, why can't you admit, yeah, we did it wrong? I've given in the article, I tell you how to solve it. You have to state your number of mortgages, and you have to state the number of defaults in those samples. You combine all your defaults, you combine all your mortgages, divide, and that's how you get the population average. So all these numbers are here wrong. And I use Monte Carlo to prove this is misleading results. Okay, business purpose of data modeling. So what is the purpose of your modeling? Each of you, what is the purpose of your modeling? What are you doing with it? Finding patterns. For what purpose? What? Somebody, the economy sold 50,000 red shoes. So the wrong answer. Sweet. Because those are lagging indicators. There's a way of converting a lagging indicator into a leading indicator. That's how you prove that modeling, telling your marketing department to sell red shoes is the wrong answer. So your business purpose? One great thing about the internet, you can pick up nice graphics for free without commercial, without worrying about commercial licenses. Okay. As revenue, if your business purpose is revenue, you want to attract more sales. If it's profitability, you want to figure out your product mix and pricing. And I know I did a lot of this, and I can tell you, I'll come to that story in a minute. Okay, so revenue growth. Remember I said you want a successful website so that you can get good data. Because without that good data, your models will lead to horrible decisions. So that's why it's so important to get this done right. To tell them the right things from a revenue point of view. So you have to know what your boss's boss really wants. Does he want revenue or does he want profitability? I used to work for Texas Instruments. I worked long there. I worked too long there. And their focus was always revenue, not profitability. They insisted they make profits, but first priority was revenue. They've changed now. It's been a while since I was there. A while means decades. So, how do you increase profitability with your data science? Remember, this is the interface between you and the customer. And you need the customer to come here to get so that you have good data. What do you tell these guys? No, it has to be nice, Francie. That's a given.
Okay. Which where that
What is that again?
like a track of the page, yeah, track of the event. Each page has more customers.
Yeah, you have to do that anyway, whether it's revenue or profitability. But if you have profitability, what you want to do is push products that have higher gross margins. If it's revenue, that becomes a little bit more complicated. So that's how you work with your management team, depending on what they want, not what you want, what they want. So what's the ultimate purpose of UI UX design? Okay, there are two things: marketing and sales. I know because I did hand-to-hand combat. 2 years, it was a glorious experience. First 6 months was hell. What is this? This is nonsense. This is crap. You come to these people and buy covers? That's what I thought the first 6 months. What I learned. Marketing is about eyeballs. Sales is about commitment. Why? That's buried in your website. Most people don't see it, but unless the eyeballs click and make a purchase, doesn't mean anything. For example, company A has 100,000 eyeballs, $2,000 worth of sales. Company B has 10,000 eyeballs or $2,000 worth of sales. Who's the better? Yeah. They don't have to put so much effort in. They're getting a much higher hit ratio than the other company. It's about commitment. At the end of the day, it's about commitment to sales, just buying. And that's a whole field in itself. Don't read the reptilian documents, that's hell. Okay, types of distribution. The reason why I put this up, this is probably the ugliest distribution you will ever work with. You should not work with it. It's a two-parameter distribution. It can take all sorts of shapes, including this. Okay? The reason is this. I'll tell you a story. It happened to be real life. 2004, 2005, around that time, maybe 2006. I was working for a subsidiary of GMAC. GMAC then was General Motors Corporation after the recession. Okay. And the managers, the rumor had it that the managers brought in some consultants. They paid them $1 million for a year's worth of work. And I was on the team, on the client side team, and I was asking a ton of questions for 6 months. They put up with me. And then finally, I got a phone call from my boss, his senior VP, and he said, consultants are complaining that you're asking too many questions. From now on, you need to shut up. If you have any questions, you have to email them to me, because he was 2 floors up, and I will decide whether I'm going to ask these questions. One consultant was a PhD in econometrics from Harvard. The other consultant was a master's in mathematics from Stanford University. I'm a Maverick. I don't care who you are. If you're wrong, you're wrong. So I kept quiet. I didn't say anything. And about 5 months later, they said, okay, I was writing up the model. They didn't have anything to do. They didn't want anything to do with writing up the model. So I wrote up the model in Excel. It's quite a big, large Excel spread. I had about 3 more percent. I finished 97% of the model and said, okay, finish. We are taking over from now. Email the model to us. and we'll take over by such and such date, or a month down the road, we'll give you the results. First I thought, what? Why would any real consultant tell a client not to ask too many questions? That's wrong. So the daytime came, we found out that they had required an extension. And okay, you got your extension. Weeks went on, some more, some more. Then they asked for another extension. Weeks went on. And finally, almost 2+ months later, they came back with a report. I didn't know that they had a report, but I heard the whole office laughing. Then I finally saw the report. Somebody gave it to me. And it said, this is fund of funds. Fund of funds, don't play with fund of funds. It's tricky business unless you really know what you're doing. The first 11 out of 23 funds, fund of funds, the first 11 fund of funds, if you put $1 million cash, you will reduce your extreme loss by $1 million. The next 12 fund of funds, if you put $1 million cash, you will increase your losses by $1 million. This was a Harvard PhD and a Stanford master's. That's the report that came back with, which was nonsense. So don't play the fool. Be careful what you're doing. And these people were paid $1 million. They use this distribution. I said, that's the wrong distribution to use. No, that's a distribution you must use. Okay. So, all data has the same symptoms. You have to know the right probability distribution to get the correct insights into future outcomes. And to understand what the right distribution is, you need to know your process. So this photograph basically says, when you're doing something like this, you're actually trying to peek at your card and your competitors' cards to see what they cannot do. So you have eyeballs arriving. Your source is web pages. What is the distribution of arrivals here? Any guesses? Yeah. Usually that's correct. But to actually solve it, you need to know queuing theory. Queuing theory is a whole world in itself. But if you have tons of sources, Poisson is the correct distribution. It's almost always the correct distribution, but you still have to check. Hypothesis testing. This is really interesting. Hypothesis testing basically consists of 2 parts: the null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. Null hypothesis is what you want, or maybe what your manager wants. And the alternative hypothesis is maybe 0, nothing. It may be a different model. If you want to be cheeky, null hypothesis is what I think it should be. Alternative hypothesis is what my manager thinks it should be. Okay. Now, there's this new protozoic snow job. How would you go about testing? You see, somebody almost had the correct answer. You cannot do anything with this because you don't know what it is. You have to ask questions. You have to find out what's going on. Okay. So what's the purpose of hypothesis testing? I was born too late, so I had to settle with the bronze version of Einstein. The Griffith Observatory in LA. It's to test your understanding, your models and your parameters. That's what hypothesis testing is all about. Okay? Now, you have to know type 1, type 2 errors. Type 1 errors is, it's real, it's true, it's correct. But your model says, no, it's not. Type 2 errors, it's completely false. But your model says, no, it's true, you must accept. I spoke to a senior VP of Bank of America about 5 years ago, right? She said, we know our credit risk methodologies, you both type 1 and type 2 errors. A good credit, the model says, is a bad credit, let him go. And a bad creditor, the model says, is good credit, you take him on. So when the type 1 errors, what happens? You lose income, you lose profitability. The type 2 errors, you gain defaults. You don't want to do both, but that's what's wrong with the credit scoring system in this country today. Nobody has got it right, or nobody has got it right enough to reduce their losses. Raman occurrence. Hypothesis. The last name of the first leader of a nation forms the initial of the first name of subsequent leader. Alternate hypothesis. No such relationship. True? False? True? False? It sounds incredible. It must be out of this world. It must be fiction. Right? Must be fiction. No. Raman was the first prime minister of Malaysia when Malaysia got its independence. And he was the first prime minister after Singapore got its independence from Malaysia. R-A-H-M-A-N. R-A-H-M-A-N. True. It happened. It really happened over a period of 2008. It's over a period of 60 years. It happened over a period of 60 years. So what is the null hypothesis? Is it nonsense? Is it people working towards satisfying a superstition? What? Yeah. Yeah, but it happened. It happened. Yeah. That's the only logical answer is people working to fulfill a superstition. And that superstition came out somewhere in this time period. So it's people working towards fulfilling a superstition, but it happened. So just because your hypothesis testing says something is true, doesn't mean it's true. You have to understand the underlying process. What else can you do with the data? See, in regression, you have one independent variable, a whole bunch of independent variables, and they are supposed to be independent. A lot of times they are correlated at if you take those purely independent variables, you can build an air model. Asymmetric information. I walk into a dealership, I'm a buyer. If I'm done my research, my thinking as I walk in is, what is the lowest price I can get that car for? And the salesman, another guy just slaughter. I love this. The senior salespeople You see somebody walking the dog, tell you, this guy is mine today, that guy is not. When I was new, this guy is mine today, he's taking, that guy is not buying today, I'm taking. That's what they did. So the asymmetric information is this, the sales guy wants to get the maximum price out of you, or else the buyer wants to get the least price out of you, out of the dealership. So that's where the asymmetric information is. So you can build a lot of different AI models. I'm working on a credit risk model and a competitive model. But I decided to be cheeky, and I did this model. A model, I use Marilyn Monroe, otherwise properly known as Norma Jean Montgomery. Marilyn Monroe is such stage name. And you can use the AI model just by looking at the person's features, male or female, doesn't matter. And you can tell things about them. For example, she sought intimacy, she seeks leadership, she's fussy. Okay? Relationship context, she's daring, unpredictable, wants excitement. Social context, self-centered, easygoing, ignores social norms. Lifestyle, self-directed, moonshot passions, externally motivated. She needs events around her to motivate her. That's why supposedly when she lost her film contract, she committed suicide. No more external motivation. Moonshot, President of the United States. She got it. But this is what directed her, the leadership, seeking the leadership. If you seek leadership from the wrong people, you go wrong. You have to be careful. This is the kind of things you can do with animals. It's not taught. I'm not ready to teach it. Okay, so you have understood the context to facilitate productive statistical analysis. Yes, no, or don't know? You want another course? Pay me $500. Okay, that's it. That's my contact information, but don't call me 3 o'clock in the morning. I've done enough of that as an IT guy for Texas Instruments. That's my website where I do my contracts. And if you want to read all my physics papers and publication, it's available there. Any questions? What is this? Oh, you have to look at all 5 bonds. No, all 5. The data shows that all 4 longer-term bonds must be below the 3-month treasury before a recession. It guarantees a recession. If it's just 1 or 2, it doesn't really matter. Any other questions?
Sales and marketing, and
I don't know. In the auto dealership, it's like 1 in 4. Sorry, we see the wrong. And that's why the UI UX presentation is very critical. And that's the way you want in your, it's called a sales funnel. You don't want people to get onto your website if they're not going to buy. Or you don't want them to walk in the door if they're not going to buy. They're just wasting the time. So you have a funnel to throw out all those people who are not interested. For example, I don't have a census number. It's almost zero. It's not something. And this guy, old guy, walked into the leadership and he asked me about cars and said, "Come on, let's sit down, let's talk." And he showed him the car. And then while I was talking to him, "Ben, come here immediately." I said, "What is got a question? What are you doing?" I started continuing. "Ben, come here now." So I walked over and said, took me behind the wall and said, "Can you not help the guy over?" I need to go and keep wasting time because time is money. They don't want you wasting time with prospect is not going to buy. So that's why if you tell them, you tell the sales dealership, "I'm going to buy next month." Try and get you to buy today. That's how the dealership is designed. The context of the dealership is designed to make a sale every step. You walk into a dealership next time, look around you and see how it's designed. Same with supermarkets. Supermarkets are designed for impulse buying. Even the arrangement of the products on the shelves is designed to get you to buy certain products and not others. That's what has to be brought into the web design. What is the purpose of that? Commitment, sales commitment above everything else. You can have a crappy website. If you get the sales commitment, nobody cares. But people do fancy websites. Why? I did my job. Can you see how beautiful it is? But does it answer the question? Will it get you commitment? No. But they did their job. Any other questions?
For someone, and I wanted to know what the skills that I should build upon when it comes to, I'm basically just data visualization. So what do you think would be the skills that I need to build up?
I'm specializing here. I specialize in this segment. So I'm not the right person to ask you. Even if I gave you an answer, probably would not be the right answer. You would want somebody who specializes here. Any other questions? I haven't decided, but I can give them away, but I haven't decided. Usually if you go to if you Google gravity modification today, meetup group, it pops up and every meeting has a set of slides available. But these slides I haven't decided because I'm converting all this into paid courses. Any other questions? No. Coffee, tea, beer, vodka? Okay, we are done. Thank you all for coming.